Hey. Time for another out-of-this-world story from our space. My girlfriend asked if we could try being in an open relationship. Figured it was to cover her cheating. This story happened a while ago, so I don't have strong feelings about it anymore. I just noticed that people have had similar experiences to what I'm about to describe and thought I'd share my experience as well. I'm currently 27, male. I was about 24 years old at the time this all happened. She was 22, female. We'd only been dating for about a month and a half, so it was nothing too serious. I met her through a mutual friend and we hit it off surprisingly well. We never intended to start seeing each other so quickly, but she really wanted to see me again. I was pretty optimistic despite how different we seemed to be. I'm an introvert, not really much of a social butterfly, and I don't really stand out in a crowd. She was the opposite. Very socially active, very outgoing, very pretty, and quite the flirt. Men would approach her and she liked the attention. She also had no reservations about discussing her favorite sexual acts with other people, even people she barely knew, as if this were just a normal topic of conversation to have with people at a social gathering. I noticed this not too long after we started dating. This obviously was a bit of a red flag for me, not in the sense that she does so. I know a lot of people who are like this and very committed in their relationships, but I figured this was going to bring a lot of attention to her from men who figured she might be an easy lay. She was very pretty and wore eye-catching clothes, whereas I don't consider myself very attractive. So obviously the thought of another man who looked better and was in better shape possibly coercing her entered my mind frequently. Despite all of this, I tried to prove I was good boyfriend material so she wouldn't be swayed in another man's direction. Ironically, it wasn't a man that killed this relationship at all. Turns out, I should have been more worried of other women. I texted her one night asking how she was doing, just catching up with her and seeing how work was. Generic conversation, before she suddenly told me that we needed to talk about something. I accepted, thinking it wouldn't be too big of a deal. We hadn't had any problems before. I figured I could handle anything seriously early on in this relationship. Then she asks, "Will you be willing to try an open relationship?" I was mostly confused by this question. Didn't see the point in having one, especially since we were just starting a relationship. What in God's name would compel someone to open a relationship that's still being established? My only response was, "Why do you want to open a relationship?" Her response felt like a vague sales pitch for some kind of scam. She said it would be interesting and experimental, and how I would benefit from it a lot. For what reason? I couldn't tell you. I guess my prize is that I have a girlfriend that sleeps with other men, and I get to sleep with other women. I don't see how this is an improvement. If I wanted to sleep with other people, I wouldn't have bothered getting into a relationship. I respectfully shot down the idea and told her I don't want to see anyone else but her. She didn't seem too bothered by my response. All I responded with an "okay." I thought it was pretty weird, but after thinking about it for about 20 minutes, I had a suspicion that she proposed this to cover herself. Maybe she cheated and wanted to enter an open relationship just to save whatever we've currently got. I texted her immediately after this revelation, asking her point blank if she was cheating on me. To her credit, she confessed everything immediately. Turns out, she was bisexual and didn't become aware of it until recently when she was hanging out with a coworker. These hangout sessions became very intimate and then progressively became sexual. They eventually experimented sexually, progressing from oral to toys and everything. I fully admit I didn't handle this revelation well. I called her some pretty harsh names and told her to never contact me again, and proceeded to block her number, as well as her social media accounts, effectively dumping her right then and there. I was pretty upset, given my history of being cheated on. I've got stories for days, most of them way worse than this, but I remember this really getting to me just because of how she tried to deceive me. Not just to be clear, I'm not bothered by her being bisexual or being in the same-sex relationship. That's 100% fine. I just didn't want to be conned into an open relationship because you wanted to hide your side chick. I cooled down after a few days and texted to apologize for freaking out on her. She was weirdly understanding about my reaction and told me it's fine. She apologized profusely for what she did, and I did accept her apology and forgive her. I'm sure some people might judge me for that. I wouldn't blame me if you did. But for some reason I realized that getting angry and destructive over this was not going to benefit me in the long run. Since this was a really brief relationship, it didn't take long to get over her cheating, and we had a pretty chill friendship for a while. She was actually one of the only ex-girlfriends I ever remained in contact with after an incident like this. I did eventually lose contact with her though. I think it's for the best. She's living her life, going to college, and is still with this girl as far as I can tell. And I'm actually genuinely happy for her. I'm upset how it came about, but I realized that she was probably not going to be the one for me. Once I realized that, it was a lot easier to be happier for her, as opposed to any other former partner I've had who had little to no consideration for my feelings. I think it's also taught me a lesson in not scorching the earth itself over situations like this. For more serious relationships, I don't blame anyone, but I definitely need to work on my emotions and handle stuff like this better. Not an experience I'd like to have again, but I'm glad I got something out of it and didn't feel like total garbage afterward. Our first reaction from swimming site 7682. Most of the time, it's to cover up their cheating. However, those that tend to open it end up getting the short stick, and their significant other ends up finding someone else that is better. Shotgun Slade chimes in, pretty much what everyone else is saying, pal. Once a woman asks you for an open relationship, it is over. They already have someone else, and they are tired of hiding it. Many times they will offer a woman as their current interest because most guys do not get as mad if it is with a woman. But that may just be the nominal change, not the entire change. She could have been hitting it with a guy before the declaration of open relationship. Throw this one back. More red flags than a May Day celebration in Russia. Best of luck to you, old chap. One more quip from Day Aliers 2019. If someone asks to be in an open relationship, it's usually because they already have someone else picked out. On to the next story. I've had emotional and physical affair that began through gaming. Would love other gamers' perspectives especially. Wife had emotional and physical affair that began through gaming. Would love other gamers' perspective especially. But having trouble finding the right community to post this in. But maybe this is the right place. I'm 40, male, at a weird crossroads in my life. And I've been thinking a lot about gaming and relationships, both in-game and in real life, and how they affect each other. My wife, 42 female, and companion of 14 years, had an emotional affair with a man online, in one of her first multiplayer experiences using voice comms. In a span of a week after meeting this guy, she asked for a divorce and quickly consummated the affair in physical fashion. It was shockingly fast, and partly driven by past traumas. He reminded her of her dead father, but there was no excuse for it. She became a gamer in 2018 with Red Dead Redemption 2, and it was magical to watch her pick up this hobby that has always been an important part of my life. Gaming has always been a sacred space to me, and I'm an open and inquisitive person who has never harassed a woman online. Of all the ways she could have chosen to do this, it felt like the deepest betrayal. She tainted the one activity that could have provided me the most solace in this time, and I'm really struggling with it. This is a long post, so I'll divide it up. And I'm hunting for your perspective and experiences here in the comments, if you have any to share. My own experiences with gaming women. My own look on gaming with women formed about 20 years ago. This girl, a year younger than me, joined our competitive first-person shooter team, and it was delightful to play with her and talk with her. I even considered asking her more personal questions and flirting. But before I did, she confided in me that one of the other team members was harassing her on ICQ. Yeah, I'm old, deal with it. And she just wanted to play the game with us. That was my first realization that this space online was hallowed ground, and none of us had any right to harass the women that gamed with us. They were just one of the guys enjoying an activity the same way that we were. He was a good friend, and I talked to him, and he stopped his behavior. In the following years, I gamed with women here and there, and I even had to kick a guy out of a World of Warcraft guild for harassing the women. Although the online realm is tainted with casual misogyny, I felt like I was always playing with good guys that understood boundaries and made sure women had a safe space, even if they made a joke in poor taste once in a while. In competitive Overwatch, I spent a lot of time making myself a target for people who were especially toxic toward female one-trick mercy players. I don't get angry easily, so it was usually simple to turn their direction to me and away from the women. I had no problem handling their toxicity, especially if I knew it was sparing someone else. And I was able to play in high masters consistently by adopting this mindset. Whether it was a child, a woman, or someone else who was a target, I always made sure they had a friend in the match. My own experience nearly committing an emotional affair. This experience was in 2019, and I thought about it a lot after finding and reading through my wife's adulterous messages and images on a PlayStation Network. The guy in question was texting my wife in a style of a bratty 14-year-old from 2007 with a T9 keypad, and almost immediately asking for pics of her cleavage. She initially resisted, mentioned she was married, and multiple times asked him to stop asking for pics, but she never blocked him or disengaged from the chat. After he sent some shirtless pics showing how fit he was, she changed her tune and started floating back, and eventually sent a topless pic. I felt embarrassed for her after reading the texts, just unable to understand what kind of woman would respond to, "Hi, show me your cleavage," and then embarrassed for myself that I married a person who turned out so crappy. This gets back to my own experience nearly committing an emotional affair in 2019. I was playing Final Fantasy XIV with friends who eventually got bored, and I started grinding Eureka for fun. If you played the game, you probably remember hating Eureka with a passion, but I found it refreshing because the old school feel left you interacting with people in a way you didn't get during regular play. I started grinding treasure in Eureka, and there was usually only one person with me. We chatted constantly, and she eventually invited me to a private Discord. She was only 2 years younger than me, and we talked about old school RPGs from the Super Nintendo, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 eras. She also had read many of the sci-fi and fantasy novels I used to love from the 80s and 90s, so there was an easy connection. Over the next 5 to 6 weeks, we talked for 2 to 3 hours every morning. Wife at work, I worked from home, while grinding, as she started posting some videos and pictures of her in the Discord. "Use my cat," she'd say, with a video showing her in a revealing swimsuit and the cat by her pool. Or, "Here's some cookies I just made," as she leaned against the counter in a low-cut top. It didn't really occur to me that she was flirting heavily with me, as I'm so used to just assuming women are online to play the game like me. Eventually, she asked for a pic of me, saying I had a nice laugh and she wanted to see my face. Eventually, though, I felt overweight at the time. She told me I looked like I'd be great for cuddles under the blanket. This is the moment I knew I was screwing up and slipping into something I shouldn't, as I was fully committed to my wife. I responded awkwardly with something like, "Ha, yeah, I'm a real furnace," to which she replied, "Oh, I could use some of that heat." I just felt a pit in my stomach and knew I had to stop playing with her. She got a little angry, accused me of leading her on, which confused me, but I apologized profusely like it was my fault. Maybe it was my fault because I wasn't picking up on the obvious signals. I thought about this moment even more after seeing a very similar exchange in my wife's text, where he said he put out a lot of heat, and she mentioned how that's great because she's always cold. I quit the game soon after that. I just didn't have it in my heart to keep playing as I realized I was only logging in for her anyway. I never told my wife because I felt I didn't need to. After all, I went no contact the moment I realized I was getting feelings. To some degree, I understood the appeal of a fresh connection that my wife must have been feeling, but also knew that her behavior was her fault and about her own trauma and insecurities. I just wish she had been a stronger, better person. Thinking about relationships for the future and where gaming fits in them. I'm trying to think about what I want in a future relationship when I eventually get back out there. Having that connection over gaming was amazing, but now all I can think about is what women are going through on a daily basis while playing online games. But I become jealous over friendships she might have with men online because of the way my wife decided to betray me? Would I become irrationally angry over the constant stream of harassment my partner endures? How common is it for these emotional affairs to occur in games? And do any of you have stories to tell that might give perspective? For girl gamers with successful marriages and relationships, what does your partner do for you, if anything, that makes you feel secure against the onslaught of "show me your tits" you get on a constant basis? First bit of advice from Mike H. 1971. In the span of a week after meeting this guy, she asked for a divorce and quickly consummated the affair in physical fashion. You were with her for 14 years and she bolted for some unknown guy she'd gained with for a week? No, bruh. People don't leave in a week from a 14-year relationship. There's tons of background stuff you have no clue about. I'm pretty sure she'd been talking to this guy a lot longer than a week. She kept you in the dark for most of your marriage. You probably ignore red flags for years. You're just at the tip of the iceberg. Next comment from Nut the Cat. I'm a gamer, but honestly, I don't think the gaming aspect is too important here. Bad men can keep everything they consider a hobby, from working out to music to fishing to TV shows. Doesn't matter. Some hobbies are solitary, but most are funner when shared. As a younger adult, I did my best to keep a variety of male and female friends, but by this time in my life, I only have female friends and male acquaintances. The same can be said for my current boyfriend. He started out with a varied group, but by now, he exclusively has male friends. I have found that for some reason, it is very hard in opposite-sex friendships for at least one person to not begin mistaking friendly affection for romantic affection. I don't have any gamer-specific experiences on this issue, but I used to have a platonic male gym buddy who I don't remember even hugging before one day, having him suddenly lean in and try to kiss me. He probably saw me at my sweatiest and smelliest, but still didn't stop the time we spent together from letting his attraction grow, because that's all it takes, time. It isn't impossible, but it is very hard, which is why I don't even try anymore. I'd rather work out or go hiking alone than put myself in another compromising situation. Am I on conversational terms with several guys? Sure. Will I ever spend any length of time one-on-one with any of them? Not anymore. Our last bit of advice comes from ICCube99. A big part of this problem is the gender discrepancy in video games, especially the older you get. As someone who's 29 now, the ratio of men to women is like 20 to 1. This leads to a huge imbalance where women have unlimited options and men are desperate to get something. Because there is anonymity online and a veil, it becomes very tempting for a woman to cheat when she's bombarded with countless men trying to woo her. Ironically, your ex-wife will most likely realize sooner or later that the new man is probably just using her for sex and most likely cannot provide her anything substantial long-term. For someone who was, under your observations, able to cheat and leave within a 1-week span, shows that she hasn't had much experience with dating men and is probably as mentally mature as a high school girl with her second boyfriend. Fortunately for you, I think at 40 you still have a great dating pool available, 30 to 45, and I'd suggest looking for one outside of gaming. It's so common within my social circles and etc. to hear women who cheat on their boyfriend because another dude online sold for persuasive fantasy ideas.